I have moved abroad 2 times. Yes, you heard that right. Not once, but twice. And this is my story. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm 29 years old and I'm living in Amsterdam at the moment. I post a lot of videos online about moving abroad, living abroad, but I've never done a sit down video and just spoke about my experiences and how I got to where I am today. So I thought, let's do it because I know that when I was looking at moving abroad and I was interested in that, I was constantly looking up videos of people and their experiences. And everyone's experiences are so individual and so different. But again, the more you know, and also I want to just explain more of my life to you guys and how I got where I am today. So, anyways, let's get started. We're going to have to go way back in time. And by way back in time, I mean 9 years ago. So it all started with study abroad. Yes, the most basic answer. I was a study abroad girl, like the stereotype of study abroad people in college when it's like, this girl studied abroad and now she won't shut up about it. She's so annoying. That was me. But studying abroad genuinely changed the course of my entire life. And if you've studied abroad, I don't have to explain it to you. So if you're in college and you're watching this and you have the chance to study abroad, do it. Do it. It might change your life. It will change your life. Anyways, it was 2016, fall semester, and it was fall semester, and I decided that I was going to study abroad in Dublin, Ireland. So that fall semester, I packed my suitcases and I flew on over to Dublin and I studied abroad there for 1 semester. I have never felt more free and exhilarated in my life. That was genuinely such a fun time in my life. And it opened up my eyes to a lot of the world. And once I got a taste of that, I could not stop. I wanted more and more and more. So when my study abroad season came to an end, I had to go back to college in the US. I went to college in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. And I just had that itch that I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back so badly. So I found an internship for the summer of 2017, the next summer in Ireland again. So the summer of 2017, I again flew over to Ireland on my own and I did this internship for, I think it was about 2 months. I wanted to be a social worker at the time, and I did become one, spoiler alert. So I interned at this place in Dublin. I was having the time of my life doing this internship. It was an internship in probation with violent male offenders. So that was my first exposure to social work, and honestly, I loved it. So the summer ended and I went back to the US to finish up my last year of college, and I knew that I wanted to move abroad. I knew that I wanted to move abroad. Like I said, wanted to become a social worker and I wanted to apply to the master's degree program at Trinity College, Dublin. So I could have the best of both worlds. I could become a social worker, but I could also move to Dublin and go to this amazing school. I applied and I did not get in, which really sucked at the time. They told me that I didn't have enough hours. You need about 600 hours to apply to the social work program of work or volunteer experience, and I didn't have that many hours. And also, if I'm being totally honest, I sucked in my interview too. I was really bad. You know, when you just leave an interview and you feel like you did not do good? That's how I felt. So I kind of wasn't surprised when I didn't get accepted, but I was bummed out. Then I started looking into other ways to move abroad, and I discovered something called a working holiday visa. And if you're from the US, I believe there's 6 countries that you can get this visa for. And it's basically a visa where you can move to said country and live and work there for 1 to 2 years. It's different for every country. And the best part is Ireland had working holiday visas. So although I was upset that I didn't get into the master's program I wanted to, I thought, I'm going to apply for this working holiday visa. I'm going to move to Dublin again, and I'll get my social work, volunteer, and work experience while I'm there for that year, and then I'll reapply to the master's program. And that's exactly what I did. So it's the summer of 2019, I pack up my suitcases and get on a plane and move to Ireland by myself. And this time was kind of scary because it wasn't I'm studying abroad for a semester or I'm doing a few months of an internship and then I'm coming home. It was like I'm going for at least a year and I'm going by myself. It's not like I'm going where I have a study abroad program to support me. Like, this is by myself. And when I landed, I was so excited, but I also was like, what the heck did I just do? I lived in this huge house with other foreigners in Dublin, and I actually had a housemate who was a girl from California, and me and her became super close, super quick. That relationship will come into play in the future of this story, but I was in Dublin for a year. I got my volunteer hours and my internship hours for social work that I wanted to build up. I also was doing temp jobs and traveling a lot. And then my working holiday visa was coming to an end, and I knew that I wanted to get my master's degree. That was my next step in life. I wanted to get my master's degree in social work, as previously mentioned. And I didn't know at this time if I wanted to go back to Boston or if I wanted to stay in Dublin. So I kind of was like, I really, really don't know. Let me just apply to Trinity in Dublin again, and let me apply to a school in Boston, and then I'll see what the answers are, if I'm accepted to any of them, and go from there. So I applied to the master's program at Trinity again, and I applied to one in Boston, and then I sat and waited for the letters to come in of acceptance or denial, and I got accepted to both. Honestly, I gotta pat myself on the back because that second time around with Trinity, I knew I had the hours and I was in Dublin, so I could do an interview in person, and I killed that interview. I killed that interview. I remember it like it was yesterday, and it was in 2019. Anyways, back to the story. Ultimately, I made the decision to stay in Dublin because I thought, screw it. If I go back to the US, it'll be so much harder to ever move back if I wanted to. And because I was already there, it was easier to stay. So I decided I'm going to Trinity and I'm getting my master's. And Trinity is such an amazing school too. Like, it was so cool to be able to go to school there. I started my master's program and I met one of my best friends that I'm still friends with to this day. And it was just a lot of work. That master's program was no joke. You basically did 2 semesters of schooling for like 6 hours straight a day, and then 2 semesters of social work internships, which was basically working full time with no pay. So I started my master's program in September of 2019, and in October of 2019, on a night out in Dublin, my Californian friend had also started a master's program, and she introduced me to some guys in her class. One of those guys happened to be from the Netherlands, and he was studying, I want to say studying abroad, but I feel like it's not studying abroad if you're getting a master's degree. Well, I guess it kind of is. He was getting his master's degree in Dublin, and we met for the first time that night. We went on our first date in February of 2020, okay? So it took a few months. But this guy, spoiler alert, ends up becoming my husband. So fast forward, March of 2020, the pandemic hit, and that was not easy. Being in a foreign country when that happened without any family or really like anyone you know around. Yes, you have your friends, but a lot of people that I was friends with left the country and went back to their home country because I was friends with so many people who weren't Irish. They were other immigrants, other expats, other people going to school, whatever. They left, and I decided to stay in Ireland because who would have guessed what that would have turned into, honestly? But Ireland had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. Genuinely, thinking back on it, it was crazy. They only had, I think, like 200 ICU beds in the whole country, so I get it. But you guys have no idea unless you were there. There were checkpoints on the street. You would get checked by the police. You weren't allowed to go more than 3 miles away from your house. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it was a lot. I didn't see my family for a year, but I did decide to quarantine with the Dutch guy that I was dating because we both were in Ireland and we didn't really have many people, and we liked each other, so we thought, let's quarantine, thinking it'd last for like a few weeks. Yeah, it was more than a few weeks, babe. It was a few years, but anyways, we quarantined together and then we basically like have lived together ever since. It's so crazy because we like actually started dating a month before that. So I always joke that we moved in a month after we started dating. Fast forward, I graduated my master's program. I became a social worker. I started working full time in Dublin as a child protection social worker, which was like in and of itself stressful. You cannot explain it to someone unless they go through it, but social work, very, very stressful occupation. So there was the stress of the pandemic that was literally still going on years later, the stress of this new job that was really, really hard. I can't explain it to you guys. I mean, if you have ever done social work, you know, it just like, it's all consuming and it tears you up inside. That was all weighing on me. It was all starting to weigh on me. And then one of my close friends in Dublin died, unfortunately. And this was only a couple hours after I was with her, and it just like really, really shook me up. And at that point, I had been in Dublin for almost like 4 years. And then I started thinking about how I wanted to be closer to my family. Maybe I could have more career opportunities in the US. Those thoughts started creeping up in my mind. And my husband worked for an American based company, and they had said that they would sponsor him to get a visa to the US. So I was thinking that could be perfect. We could try out living in the US. Usually you would have to be married to get your significant other into the US, but it was perfect that my husband's company would be sponsoring him. I could be closer to my family. I don't know. I was just not mentally in a good place at that point, and I felt like I had gotten everything that I wanted to get out of Ireland. At that point, I also had stopped drinking. Like, the pub culture in Ireland is real, and then if you're not doing that, there's really not that much to do. So I was pretty isolated too. Anyways, well, fast forward, we decided that we wanted to try out living in the US. So after like 4.5 years, I left Ireland. But then right when I left Dublin, we found out that my husband actually couldn't move. Well, he was my boyfriend back then. He couldn't move to the US when we thought that he would be able to. So we ended up having to do long distance for about 6 months, where he moved back to the Netherlands and I was just living by myself in Boston. And that was also kind of lonely. And the US just wasn't what I thought it was. I romanticized it. I loved being near my family, but my career wasn't really working out the way that I thought it would. I was making more money, but I was spending more money. So I wasn't saving as much as I was in Ireland, and it just really didn't work out the way that I imagined it would have worked out. But my husband moved over to the US 6 months after me, and we stayed there for 2 years together. And then we got married, and I said, let's move to the Netherlands. Let's try living in the Netherlands. The US isn't really working out how I thought it would. And I've been to the Netherlands. It seems like such an amazing place to live, better work life balance, blah, blah, blah. So, all that being said, we found an immigration lawyer, even though we were told that we could easily kind of do the visa that we wanted to do ourselves, but we wanted to make sure that there was no stone left unturned after the last time that we had our visa situation kind of go wrong when we had to do long distance. And that took a few months, but it was quite a seamless process. The bureaucracy in the Netherlands is pretty good compared to my experience with the bureaucracy in Ireland, but that's another story. Anyways, we then packed up our bags and we moved to Amsterdam in January of 2025, and that was not an easy move for me. Even though I wanted to do it, it was way harder the second time around. I was like questioning things. I was regretting even wanting to go. I was leaving my family again. And like at this point, I was 28 years old. I wasn't a carefree 22-year-old anymore. And I know 28 is young, but like I'm seeing my family members age and people I'm super close to getting sick. And it's just like a whole nother realm of thoughts going through my mind this second time moving abroad. Like, what am I doing? But we had our minds made up and we moved in January. And the crazy thing is that I was posting content, and about a week into me living in Amsterdam, I got recognized on the street for the first time, and someone stopped me. Actually, from watching my YouTube videos, which was funny because I literally started my YouTube channel like the week that I moved to Amsterdam. But before that, I was really just posting on TikTok. And when I moved here, I started posting on YouTube and Instagram. Anyways, getting recognized was crazy to me. I was like, am I Kim Kardashian? No, but it really made me think that I could take social media seriously. And since then, I've gotten recognized so many times by so many amazing, nice people, and social media has brought so many cool opportunities into my life, but like not really financial opportunities, just cool opportunities. I've made all of my friends in Amsterdam so far through social media for the most part. And I just celebrated my year anniversary of living in Amsterdam quite literally a few days ago. So that's where I'm at now, and that's my story of moving abroad. Throughout all of my moving abroad experiences, too, I have heard of and seen multiple like visa avenues and ways to move abroad. So I also can make a totally separate video about that if anyone's interested. But I just wanted to share like my personal experience to show how I got where I am today. And I'm really reflecting because I'm turning 30 in a couple months, and it's just my 20s was full of moving abroad and traveling and really finding myself. And I would recommend that to anyone who's even thinking about it. Just do it. Just move abroad. The worst thing that could happen is that you don't like it and you move home and you've grown as a person because you took this huge step and did this scary thing, and you'll never have to wonder what if. That's the thing. I never want to have to wonder what if in my life when I'm older. Like, what if I moved to this place? What if I did this? What if I did this? I want to do the things, even though it can be really hard and scary. And I've done them in my 20s. I can confidently say that. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. Anyways, that's my story. I feel like I was just rambling on for the longest time. Hopefully, when I edit this, it actually makes sense. We'll see. But I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.